Welcome to Generations, a show for seniors, people who know seniors, or people who will someday become seniors. I'm David Lapaco. I'll be your host for this episode of Generations. Today, we're going to be featuring one of our co hosts who will discuss a book she has written that deals with reinventing ourselves, which certainly gets my attention. Like it or not, it's something that many seniors simply must do. But before we introduce that topic, let's check in with our panel of co-hosts on a much smaller scale in terms of looking forward. What are you looking forward to this summer? And our first co-host would be Candy Pettiford.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. And I'm glad to be here. Yes, Candy Pettiford. And I think I'm going to do some reinventing. Believe it or not, I'm going to do a curriculum at an adult daycare. I visited some daycares and they're just playing bingo, boring. So I'm going to start curriculum, something new.
Wow. Better you than me. I wouldn't know how to do that, but I think you're the right candidate for something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Then we have Rashida Jenkins. What are any particular plan you have for the summer that is as interesting as Candy's?
Well, hello. Yes, I don't know if it's as interesting as Candy's, but it's active. I lead a summer bike ride called Slow Row, and we ride 6 to 8 miles around the community. And then we have a community meal after. And so that's one of the rides that I lead in the summer.
What a very cool event. Sounds really appealing. Thank you so much. Mike Rosberg is with us. Mike, as you look forward to the lazy days of summer, what are you thinking of doing?
Well, I've been gardening in my double lot for 30 years. I like to put things in patterns, and to form the patterns, I use bricks and sidewalk blocks. And over the course of 30 years, they do kind of settle down into the ground and can get covered over by dirt. So I'm just going to be doing a lot of grunt work this summer of taking up all the sidewalk blocks and putting more dirt underneath so that things stand out and are easier to see.
Well, I've seen Mike's garden, and it is a place you could actually charge admission for. It's that elaborate and ornate and kind of amazing. So more power to you.
Thank you.
Well, our fourth co-host, this is the reveal moment, is the author we're going to be featuring today, and that would be Nadia Giordana. Nadia, maybe you want to tell us what you're in the short term, what you're thinking about for summer, and then just kind of morph into a discussion of your book, which involves reinvention. So it's looking forward on a much bigger scale and a much more meaningful scale, perhaps. But tell us how you've been and what you're up to this summer.
Well, for the summer, on the short term, I'm looking forward to several weddings this summer and some June graduations. So family and friend events, which I haven't had for a couple of years. So that's really, really nice. And as far as my book and reinventing new chapters in one's life, yes, let me do an overview of that. Now, I had several years ago lost almost 100 pounds of weight. And that's not what we're going to be talking about this year. This episode. We're not talking about weight loss as such, other than how it fits into reinventing a new chapter in your life. And of course, this is the book I wrote at that time, Thinking Skinny, and both those pictures are me, and I had lost at the time 88 pounds. So I took a lot of notes during that process, and I also did something else immediately after that, was overcome a lifelong fear of speaking in public. Speaking on camera, doing a show like this would have been absolutely impossible because I would have told you I was dying and couldn't get there. Anything not to do something like this. Those two things were the major reinventions that I did in my life. And they translated into a book that I wrote titled Reinventing New Chapters in Your Life at Any Age. I was 59 when I started my reinventions. And one of the one of the favorite quotes that I had written down in the book by Edwin Lewis Cole is, you don't drown by falling in the water. You drown by staying there. So no matter where you've been at in life, no matter where you've stumbled, dig yourself out of that. You're not going to drown unless you stay there. And I always thought that was words to live by for me. Within the book, I touch on 7 steps that I used in order to put myself, because you can't just go out there and do things. Maybe some people can, but you have to get your head right. You have to get your body right. You have to get whatever other things in line in your life. The number one, that's why number 1 is on my list, reshape a healthier body and attitude. And that was for me losing not a little weight, but a lot of weight. Someone else might just have 5 or 10 pounds, or just to get in shape, start walking, start running, doing whatever you need to do, but drop your bad habits, quit smoking if you smoke, that kind of thing. So that's reshaping your body, reshaping your attitude, learning how to be punctual. If you have any bad habits for work, learning how to be punctual, dress well, dress for success. I call the whole package my lifestyle GPS system. And if you have other questions, you can ask me as we go along. Number 2 in the 7 steps is realign your relationships. Sometimes you've got relationships that are all out of whack. The last thing you can do by focusing on yourself, it's really hard to do that if you haven't resolved uneven relationships in your family or romantically, either way. You need to realign your relationships and your spiritual life too. That makes a huge importance if you haven't gotten that in place for yourself. Number 3 is redirecting your thought patterns. And that really is prayer, meditation, coaching, make a vision board, but get your mind ready for this transformation along with your body. Then you should rediscover, that's number 4, rediscover the magic in your life and in the world around you. We get to where we take the world for granted. We don't think of the special things. We lose our spontaneity. Bring back your sense of adventure. Don't be so serious. Laugh once in a while. Just those 4 things together will make your life better, and you'll feel more like reinventing a new chapter in your life. And someone else just earlier on mentioned the regrets, number 5. This is a big one. This was a big one for me, still always is. I still work on it over and over again. Remove lingering regrets. There are things in your life, maybe something you've done, maybe someone you've never been able to resolve a relationship with. Maybe they passed and you cannot ever go back and resolve the relationship. Then what you need to do is put it in some kind of a place in your life that you can move forward. Express your feelings if you never have. Cry. That's the perfect time to cry. I also say this is one of the few times in life when you should learn how to rationalize. And I mean that in a very good way, not in another way, but you find ways to rationalize that this was the only outcome and this is what it is, and it's okay that this is the way things are. And remind yourself of some of the good things you've done in your life, and just get your focus moving forward, and revisit this and go back to it from time to time if you need to. And then, of course, that comes to number 6, where you begin to rewrite this new chapter in your life. And it really does mean that you really do want to take notes, make goals. You really do want to write out what your goal or goals might be. And oh, I have a quote or two in here that I want you to know about. And this first one is one of my own personal quotes. And it is one of my favorites. Lifestyle choices are a lot like buying new clothes. We try on different things until something fits. And even then, it doesn't fit forever, or it goes out of style, or we simply get tired of it. It's up to us to discard a bad fit as soon as it's recognized. Now, doesn't that carry right over into our lives? I think that one is just amazing. And then I have another quote I want you to know about, and this was by Bob Proctor. And this, every time I go for a new reinvention, whatever, however big or small, I remember his, because this has to do with setting your goal high enough. Bob Proctor says, set a goal to achieve something so big, so exhilarating, that it excites you and scares you at the same time. It must be a goal so appealing, so much in line with your spiritual core, that you can't get it out of your mind. So it needs to be scary, it needs to intimidate you, and you can't, but you want to do it and you can't get it out of your mind. That is what I generally call your showstopper goal. That's when you know you're there, you've reached your goal. And at that point, and I use in the book a 3-tier process to get there, and that fits with almost any project too. And you'd have to write that fresh each time and adapt it to whatever your goal might be. But then when you get to number 7, which is revealing your goal, your reinvention, or in my case, in the weight loss case, that was reintroducing myself, because nobody had seen me, and literally people didn't recognize me in the beginning after not having seen me for a year and a half, and then almost 90 pounds gone. That made a huge difference, and we'll show a picture. But those are the 7 steps, and I'd like to know, Dave, how many of these steps, or in what manner, will you take some of this advice to reinvent something new and interesting in your life as you leave professorship and have a new reinvention in your life?
Yeah. Well, Nadia's picking on me because it's only been, well, it's less than 2 weeks since I've been formally retired. And so I'm having to work through these various things that you're talking about. And in fact, you may have missed some of your calling. You could tour the nation being some sort of motivational speaker with this 7-point system. It really fits there. And I'm still at the point where I'm letting the dust settle a bit, and I'm still literally cleaning out my office, which has 38 years of accumulated crud. And I've got till the end of the month to finally do that, but it's been a ginormous project. And it's like when someone in your life who's close to you passes on, there is a time where you just have to kind of sit and center for a while. And I'm not quite there yet. I do know that a lot of my life has been built around projects and deadlines, and an endless array of those things. And I'm trying to pull back from that. But on the other hand, I don't want to just sit on the beach and put my feet up and drink Mai Tais all day. That would be incredibly boring. So it's finding that sweet spot where I've got some new projects and new things that I'm doing, but still a little more sanity to my life. So it's not so crazy, because in the work I've been doing, December and April are awful times of the year, because the semesters are ending. People are stressed and cranky. I am grading and reading tons of papers and evaluating all kinds of things. People are falling by the wayside because they can't cope with it. And so I'm really hoping to get away from that sort of thing and have a more manageable life. But exactly what that's going to look like, I'm not sure. And maybe we should turn to some of our other co-hosts to kind of talk about how they would see the challenges that your book offers?
So for me, it
Anyone?
resonated with me because I too had to reinvent myself. However, mine was not an option. I didn't have the choice. I was injured on the job and could no longer do the job that I had been doing. It was actually my career. I had been doing construction work for over 12 years. And after sustaining a traumatic brain injury, I was no longer able to do the work. And so reinventing yourself is definitely something I had to do. I think one of the biggest things that I faced was forgiveness because it was someone else's fault that I fell. And so just understanding what that looks like and being able to forgive, to be able to move past that traumatic brain injury. And I still have some symptoms. So I really resonate with your book, Nadia, and I think it's going to be a blessing to a lot of people. Question for you is there something in your book that speaks to relationships and how some of them will not see you past and even into your new adventure, your new life?
I do take up that subject in the book because I expand on all of these points, and forgiveness and the attitudes of the other people around you. All of those things do play into it. They are major things. They really make a big difference because how other people see you, technically we're not supposed to resonate or be affected by how other people see us. But the fact of the matter is, it does, and it affects us deeply. So in different ways, how we can resolve some of that. And even I do talk about dressing for success, which is a kind of a worn out phrase. But when people don't see you any longer as a construction worker, then part of changing that image is partly visual. But forgiveness is probably even bigger because that frees you more than that's more under your control than it is to control their thoughts and how they see you.
Yes.
Candy or Mike, any thoughts about reinvention?
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, okay, if there's one thing I'm concentrating on each year for the last several years, I would call it reinventing and de-inventing. It's that I've always liked to run or jog or walk, but I do have a foot problem, a foot condition called neuropathy, so that after I walked, let's say half a mile, my feet would be burning and I'd have to quit. And what that meant is that I stopped walking during the spring and summer when it was warm and started walking during the winter because it was cold. And as a result of that, I weigh about 10 pounds more in the summer, in the hot months, than I do in the winter and the cold months. And during the summer, I just get kind of lazy and I lose my focus and things like that. And I find that I particularly like apple pies and ice cream and this and that during the summer. So then I have 10 pounds I need to work off during the winter. So it's, for me, it's just a cycle which doesn't end.
You know, Mike, that is an excellent comment, because one of the things about reinventing things in your life is it changes at different stages in our lives. And even for me, after a couple of injuries over the last couple of years, what you're talking about as far as walking, I've always believed, well, I will always be able to walk. I can always do that one thing. Well, for the better part of 2 years, I wasn't. And weight did start to come back on. And then once things evened out a little bit more, I'm just now getting back into the walking stages, and it's in increments and in smaller bits. And I'm seeing it different and reinventing how my walking and my exercise means to me. And I suppose that'll change in the next decade of my life also. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, reinventing yourself for me is, I think that's been my whole total life. As being a flight attendant for the airlines, I had to let that go And I do love your dress for success. And one of these people that when I was a child, I'm number 9 of 13 children. I didn't like the way the older brothers and sisters looked, and they have to hand their clothes down to me. So I was allowed as a child to constantly reinvent, constantly allowed to tear up things and change this around because I did not like the way they looked. So my whole life has been one of reinventing. And so my question for you, Nadia, is when you lost that weight, um, what was the first thing you really thought of after you lost all that? And what do I start now that I've, really have toned down?
Well, let's see. The first thing I thought was, I'm
You
going to
did
go.
surgery now, did you? Did you do a surgery to get rid of the flab and the blubber and whatever over?
I didn't do any surgery. I do talk about what I did, though, to keep things from keeping your skin from getting too loose with a great weight loss. That's in here too. And that deals with, I wore foundation garments, which hold your body in, and you look temporarily better, but it also holds things in one place. And when you think about it, let's say you were to have liposuction, which I did not have. But when you have liposuction, they go in, that's a scary thing. They go in and they suck out all that, but then that's an injury. So what do? They put you in a compression garment to heal. So when I was losing the weight, every bit of weight that you lose, you're burning off with your own body. So if you're wearing a compression garment, you're going to be in better shape when the weight comes off if you're diligent and persistent with the compression garment. So that was one of the things that I did. And I forget now if I've actually answered your question or not, but that was really fantastic.
Thank you for that, because that's a good beginning for a lot of people.
Yeah. One thing that's very clear is that we do live in a culture where there's a lot of self-help mantras and the idea that you're not helpless, that you can empower yourself and do things. And sometimes, despite Nadia's more eloquent, have a big goal to inspire you, sometimes just having little things will help too, manageable goals. I know of a couple people who are retired, one of whom serves meals to the homeless once a week and finds it to be really meaningful and to be in that world. And I have another friend who was in business for many years, and he was kind of at his wit's end in terms of what to do. But there was a church nearby that they had been attending, and he talked with the minister and said, "Is there anything that I can do for you?" And he said, "Well, I know you have all this business background. I know you don't know much about church stuff, but I would like somebody who I could bounce ideas off of, who could be a kind of a consultant to me about things that I'm deciding." And his name is Ron, and he's all turned on by this idea that once a week he meets with this minister who he helps guide through the work that he's doing. And it's these little things that have made a difference for these people because they now have a sense of purpose and something that's new and definable that they can do and that they get joy and meaningfulness out of it. So I think that's important.
Very much so. I have a question for you, Nadia. Through all the reinvention and the different things that you've gone through, what's one thing that has remained the same that you will not change?
One reinvention that's remained the same that I won't change.
Something about you through this process that has stayed the same that you won't change.
Oh, I think that's my core personality, my empathy for others, and my excitement and thirst for learning about knowledge and insights from other people. I've started, one of the reinventions I started was an interview program for TV and social media. And the women that come on there, they become my friends. So I will not change my methods for drawing those people into my life and always bringing in new and exciting and knowledgeable people in my life.
I might ask Nadia a question. There were a couple of people during my work life who I befriended, but then kind of had falling outs with, and a couple of people in my private life where the same thing happened. How do you, according to your 7 steps, kind of get over that and not be bothered by it, thinking of this person or that person from 25, 30 years ago, but just letting them go?
Yeah, that is one of the hardest things of all of the things to do, because the one nice thing about it is at the point where you can't resolve it, they're never gonna forgive you for whatever it is you did or they think you did, or whatever else it might be. Then it goes straight back to you, and you have to forgive and let go. And that's a lot easier said than done. But bringing in these new reinventions does help in the letting go, because if you've got new and interesting things in your life, then that's going to be wonderful. And whatever you do, for heaven's sakes, don't post something with the thought in your mind, this will really get them. Don't do anything like that.
I mean, like Facebook?
Yeah.
Well, we're down to about our final minute here. Any final questions or thoughts that we want to end on today?
I'd like to end on the fact of, Nadia, for somebody who's read your book or going to read it or whatever, read it, what's the first thing you say, this you must do before you do anything? What would you say to get your mind grappling with, I've got to change?
Let go of the outside influences around your life and return to your core. For me, it was God.
Yes. Very good. Excellent. I agree there.
Well, I hope our viewers have thought about this. I know it's possible to feel guilt because you haven't done enough, or despair, like I can't do this. I think the message here has been very positive, that we really can empower ourselves and do things. And Nadia, I know she's just an ordinary human being, and look what she has done. And so more power to you. So with that, time is our enemy at this point, and I think we have to sign off. But thank you all for this interesting discussion about a very important issue in our world. How can we reinvent ourselves? And we all desperately, at some point in our lives, need to do that. And so for now, let's adjourn for the day and look forward to our next edition of Generations.